Welcome to Beyond You, the podcast where we dive deep into healing, rediscovery, and the building the life you truly deserve. I'm Samantha, your host and guide on this journey. If you're ready to move past toxic relationships, reconnect with your true self, and create authentic connections, you're in the right place. We'll be having real conversations, sharing practical tips, and offering the kind of support that helps you just not survive, but thrive. Each week, we're unpacking how to heal from the past, rediscover who you are, and building a future that feels like you. So whether you're just starting your healing journey or have been on the path for a while, let's do this together. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Beyond You podcast. If you're here, you already know that we go deep, and today we're tackling one of the toughest parts about healing after betrayal, which is trust. And I know this really hits close to home for many of us, rebuilding trust after betrayal. So let's just call it like it is. Trust can be hard. And when it's been broken, it feels impossible to rebuild, right? Like, how many of us have thought, what if I never trust anyone again? As I'm raising my hand. Or my personal favorite, what if I only trust myself and not even sure about that? So we sometimes even start questioning ourselves. But we have to understand that rebuilding trust isn't just about trusting others again. It's also about learning to trust yourself. Because let's be real, after betrayal, it's easy to feel like your intuition failed you. Like you missed all the signs and now you're not even sure if you can rely on your own gut. I get it. I've been there. So today we're going to talk about how betrayal breaks trust, how to start rebuilding it with yourself first, and then how to open the door to trusting others again. Because while trust can feel fragile, it's not impossible. It just takes time, patience, and a whole lot of grace. So I want to start off with how betrayal breaks trust, okay? And how does it shake you at your core? So let's start here. Betrayal is personal. Whether it's a partner who lied, a friend who let you down, or a situation that blindsided you, betrayal shakes your foundation. It doesn't just make you question them. It sometimes, a lot of the times, makes you question you. So for me, betrayal looked like ignoring red flags in a relationship. I remember thinking, maybe I'm just overreacting, or maybe I'm expecting too much. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. I was just gaslighting myself because I was so desperate to believe in the relationship, right? And I know desperate feels like a harsh word, but a lot of times we're so focused on the outcome of things, we're not really seeing on just what is. And that's the thing about betrayal. It messes with your head. You start replaying moments over and over thinking, how did I not see it? How could I have been so stupid? We're judging ourselves. But let me tell you something right now. Betrayal is not your fault. And I know a lot of people say that, but it really isn't. If we really think about this, somebody else made a choice and that choice is on them. It's not on you. So if you're carrying guilt or shame about missing the signs, no, I'm going to invite you to let it go. I know that seems hard, but I invite you to allow them to have their own choice, and you made the choice for you to not be in it or to whether to stay or whatever that choice was for you. Betrayal says more about their character than it ever will be about yours. And I get it. It feels earth-shattering when someone breaks your trust. It's not just what they did. It's about what it makes you question. It's like pulling a thread on a sweater and suddenly the whole thing unravels. So you just start questioning. And I had this friend, let's call her Taylor, who got ghosted by a partner she thought was the one. One day they were planning trips together. The next they were just gone. She told me it's not just that he left. It's that I didn't see it coming. How am I supposed to trust myself to spot the signs next time? And I hear this a lot within my clients, than people that in my programs or past memberships. And honestly, I felt that in my soul when she said this, because betrayal doesn't just make you doubt others. It does make you doubt yourself. And betrayal hits on two big fears. Let's be real here. The fear of being wrong and the fear of being vulnerable again. And those fears can keep us stuck in a cycle of mistrust, which is why it's so important to address them head on. Here's the part no one tells you. Rebuilding trust starts with yourself. When you've been betrayed, your first instinct might be to build walls. This happens time and time again, but we've got to remember, when you build walls, nobody can get in. We want to let the good in and keep the bad out. So a lot of times when we build these walls, we're like, nope, no one's getting in here again. But trust isn't about keeping people out. It's about learning to recognize who's safe to let in. And that starts with trusting your own judgment. So a lot of times we don't realize on how we can be able to build that trust. And I'm going to talk deeper into that. But I just want you guys to remember that trusting yourself means believing that you'll make decisions that protect your peace and in line with your values. A lot of times we don't trust yourself because we don't trust that if we come into a situation that we'll walk away. We don't trust that we'll say whatever we need to say during that moment. And we have to remember that, I'm going to say it again, trusting yourself means believing that you'll make decisions that protect your peace and align with your values, even if it means walking away from something you want. And after one of the biggest heartbreaks, I remember sitting in my car. I mean, no, don't judge me, eating fries, because let's be honest, fries are healing, right? And thinking, how did I miss the signs? How did I let this happen? But the real question wasn't, how did I miss it? It was, how do I make sure I don't ignore my gut next time? That's when I realized trusting myself wasn't about being perfect. It was about learning from what happened and moving forward. But trust me, this does take time. It's not something that happened within one day. It was a lot of friends contacting me. You guys know who you are if you're listening, contacting me or just realizing on what I need to do next. So I really want to break down when it comes to practical steps when it comes to trust. So we're going to start small. Rebuilding trust it just isn't about making huge life decisions right away. It's about the little things, like asking yourself, what do I feel right now? What do I need? And actually listening to your answer and following through. So I'll give an example. For example, if your gut says, take a break, honor that. If it says, speak up, try it. The more you practice tuning in, the more you'll realize and you'll start to trust your instincts again through those little amounts of following through what you say you're going to do. Number 2, what I want you to do is to forgive yourself. Let's get this straight. Just because you've been betrayed doesn't mean you're broken. And you know how I feel about the broken word. I don't believe anybody is broken. But you didn't fail at relationships. You didn't miss some magic formula for spotting red flags. You're human. Any part of healing is learning to forgive yourself for the moments when you didn't know better. And then what I want you to do in step 3, I want you to build confidence through boundaries. Boundaries are a trust-building superpower. When you set and uphold boundaries, you're telling yourself, I deserve to be respected. It's a way of protecting your peace even when it feels uncomfortable. Okay, so we're getting deep into this one. So let's get into the hard part, trusting other people again. If you've been betrayed, this probably feels like trying to walk across a tightrope with no net underneath. Your brain is on high alert, scanning for any sign that someone might hurt you again. And is this too good to be true? What if they're lying? Can I really let my guard down? These questions tend to come up for us when it comes to talking about trusting others again. But I first want to normalize this. It's completely natural to feel this way. When you've been burned, your brain wants to protect you from getting hurt again. It's like your internal security system, your intuition, right? Sometimes that protective part of us has been set to DEFCON 1, right? Ready to shut the door on anything that feels risky. But here's the catch. That same security system can block out the good stuff too. So how do you start trusting others again without constantly second-guessing everything? Let's break it down. Step 1, for this, I want you to look for consistency. Consistency is the foundation of trust. It's not about grand gestures or big promises. It's about the little everyday actions that show someone's reliability. Think about it. Someone can say, I'll always be here for you. But if they're constantly flicking on plans or disappearing when things get hard, their actions don't match their words. Trustworthy people show up consistently even when it's inconvenient. Here's a real life example so you can kind of get what I'm talking about. When I first started dating after leaving my toxic relationship, I was hyper aware of flaky behavior. If someone said they'd call at 7 and didn't, my brain would spiral. But instead of jumping to conclusions, I started paying attention to patterns. Was this a one-off thing? Or did it happen all the time? Trust isn't built on one moment, it's built on patterns. Step 2, I want you to communicate your needs. Here's a hard truth, and you've heard this before, but people aren't mind readers. If you've been hurt before, you might feel like you shouldn't have to explain your needs. But here's the thing, healthy relationships thrive on communication. When you're ready to let someone in, be honest about where you're coming from. You don't have to spill all your trauma on the first date. Please don't do that. But saying something like, I'm working on trusting again and sometimes I need reassurance, can go a long way. And here's the kicker. How they respond to that honesty will tell you a lot about whether they're worth your trust. The right person will respect your needs and meet you where you are. The wrong person will make it about them and say things like, why don't you trust me already? That's your cue to exit stage left. Step 3. I know there was this thing before that is trust given or earned. Trust is earned, not given. Let me just say this. Trust isn't a free gift you hand out to anyone who smiles at you. It's something people earn over time. Pay attention to how people treat you, especially during tough moments. Do they handle conflict with respect or do they lash out? Do they take accountability for their actions or do they deflect and blame? The way someone behaves when things aren't easy is a window into their true character. Here's what helped me. Instead of rushing to trust someone completely, I started trusting people in small doses. I tested waters by sharing something minor like a tough day at work and see how they responded. Did they listen? Did they care? Did they follow up with questions? Did they follow up later to ask how I was doing? Those small interactions helped me figure out who is safe to trust with more. So I got a listener's question, and I love your guys' questions. So please make sure to send that and DM me with questions, or you can email us with questions. But the question is, how do I stop overthinking when it comes to trust? Okay, let's tackle this. Great question. First, let's acknowledge that overthinking is your brain's way of trying to keep you safe. It's like your mind is running through every possible scenario thinking, okay, if I prepare for the worst, I won't get blindsided again. The problem is overthinking doesn't protect you, it exhausts you. Here's some ways to manage it. And know that I'm talking to myself when I say these things too, right? When it comes to overthinking, because that's one of my biggest things. But step 1, I want you to catch the overthinking spiral early. The first step is to recognize when you're spiraling. Maybe it's when someone doesn't reply to your text right away and your brain jumps to, they're losing interest, they're probably lying to me. When you notice this is happening, pause and ask yourself, what evidence do I actually have for this thought? Is this my past talking, or is this something real in the present? Please ask yourself those 2 questions first. Sometimes just naming it, this is my fear talking, not reality, can help you take a step back. Step 2, I want you to focus on what you can control. Overthinking often happens when you're trying to control something outside your power, like someone else's intentions or feelings. But here's the truth. You can't control whether someone will hurt you. What you can control is how you show up for yourself. For example, instead of worrying, what if they're lying? Shift the focus to, how can I create safety for myself if things don't work out? This might mean setting boundaries, journaling your feelings, or reminding yourself that you'll be okay no matter what happens. Because a lot of this overthinking is not trusting that no matter what happens, you are going to be okay. If you really have the belief that you're going to be okay, then you would allow for life to happen or unfold as it needs to. Next, sometimes we have to distract our brain. Sometimes you just need to redirect your energy. When you catch yourself spiraling, do something that brings you back to the present. Take a walk, call a friend, or even make yourself a fancy coffee. Seriously, being my own Starbucks barista has saved me on my many anxious days. Step 4, remember, trust isn't all or nothing. Here's the big one. Trusting someone doesn't mean you're handing over your entire heart on day 1. No, we're not doing that. It's okay to trust in small steps. Give yourself permission to say, I'm going to trust this person with this one thing and see how it feels. Overthinking tends to come from feeling like you need to have everything figured out right now. But trust is a process. It unfolds over time. Why trusting others is worth it. Sometimes we're like, okay, I'm just okay being by myself. Like, why is it important to even trust others anyway? And I know it's scary to trust again. After betrayal, it's tempting to build walls and think I'm never letting anyone hurt me like that again. But here's the thing. Walls keep people out, but they also keep you from experiencing connection. Trust isn't about a guaranteeing you'll never get hurt again. We're not saying that. It's about giving yourself the chance to experience the beauty of a real, genuine, authentic connection. Because when you find someone who's truly safe, trust becomes the foundation for something extraordinary. So, I know it's been a bit, you guys have been hanging with me, so let's wrap this up. What's one small thing you can take this week to rebuild trust? Maybe it's tuning into your own intuition and honoring how you feel. Maybe it's letting someone new in just a little bit to test the waters. Whatever it is, take it slow. Trust is built one step at a time. So I wanted to do, if you can hang on for a little bit more, I want to do a guided visualization if you can, building your foundation of trust. Let's end with this guided visualization to help you feel more grounded in trust. So I want you to close your eyes if you can, or lower your gaze, and take a deep breath. Picture yourself standing on a foundation of solid stone. This foundation represents your trust in yourself. It's strong, steady, and unshakable. Feel that strength beneath your feet. Now imagine someone standing a few steps away. This is someone you're learning to trust. Picture them stepping in or onto your foundation. Not all the way, just close enough to connect. Notice how you feel. If it feels right, let them step closer. If not, you're allowed to keep that distance. Trust is about balance. It's about letting in what feels good and keeping out what doesn't. So this week, remember, I want you to choose one small action to build trust. Okay, so what's one small step you can take this week to rebuild trust? Please let me know, whether it's on my email list, whether it is through a DM. Let me know on how you're building trust. Even in the comment section, you can let me know, and I'll be tuning into that and making sure to reply to each and every one of you. Thanks for joining me today for this episode. Trust is one of the hardest things to rebuild after betrayal, but it's also one of the most rewarding. If this episode resonated with you, feel free to grab my Feel to Heal worksheet. It's a great starting point to reflect on where you are in your healing journey. And hey, if you have a question you'd like me to answer in the podcast, send it my way. Let's tackle this journey together. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, trust isn't about perfection, it's about progress.